Have you ever noticed that most of what ruins your peace isn't actually happening? Right now, wherever you are, you're physically safe. Nothing dangerous is unfolding in front of you. No disaster is actively occurring. You're just here, breathing, sitting down. And yet, inside the mind, entire worlds are being constructed. You're rehearsing an argument that hasn't happened yet. You're replaying one that's already over. You're imagining how someone talked about you behind your back. You're building a disaster out of a situation that might never arrive. You're living through a future that doesn't exist. And the wild thing, the genuinely strange thing, is that your body believes it all. Heart rate shifts, chest tightens, stomach drops, mood changes. And not because of what's actually happening in the room, but because of what's being simulated inside the skull. The mind is a dream machine, and most people are dreaming while they're wide awake. Here's the thing, the mind isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. The human mind is a survival simulator. It developed over millions of years to protect us, to scan for threats, to predict danger before it arrived, to run scenarios, what might happen, what could go wrong, how to prepare. That machinery kept our ancestors alive. If there was a rustle in the bushes, the paranoid ape who imagined a predator before checking survived the one who didn't. Natural selection kept the worries around. But that same ancient machinery is now running inside a world it was never designed for. There are fewer predators in the bushes these days, so the mind finds new bushes. Money, health, relationships, status, what someone said, what someone might think, the future, the past, the comment section, the diagnosis you haven't had yet, the rejection that hasn't happened, or the loss you haven't suffered. The survival scanner never clocks off, it just updates its threat database. And because the nervous system can't always tell the difference between a real predator and an imagined one, between an actual disaster and a mental rehearsal of one, we end up suffering inside projections. What is that if not a kind of socially accepted madness? A perfectly safe ape sitting in a quiet room torturing itself with imaginary realities. Carrying ancient software on modern hardware, software that was never meant to run this hard or this constantly without rest. And here's where it gets really interesting, because it's not just that the mind produces anxious thoughts, it's what happens next. A thought appears. What if everything goes wrong? The body reacts, the chest tightens, the stomach drops, something changes physiologically. And then the mind looks at the body and says, "See? Something must be wrong. Look how you feel." So it produces another thought, then another, then another. The mind creates the fear, the body feels the fear, the mind uses the body's fear as evidence that the original thought was real. It's a loop, a closed circuit, a feedback system generating its own fuel. And once you're inside it, you're no longer responding to reality. You're responding to the emotional echo of your own imagination, to the story the mind built, to the simulation. This is how we become trapped. The mind's endless interpretation of life, the rehearsals, the predictions, the dream we mistake for the world. So, what does meditation actually do? Not what people think it does. People think meditation is about emptying the mind, about forcing peace, about becoming serene and unreachable and slightly vacant. It isn't. At its simplest, meditation is just this. Sit down, pay attention, notice the breath, notice the mind wander, and come back, again and again. At first it seems almost insultingly simple, maybe even boring. You sit there and think, is this it? This is the ancient practice? But then something remarkable begins to happen. You start to see the mind instead of being completely lost inside it. A thought appears, and for once you don't immediately become it. A worry surfaces, and instead of obeying it, you notice it. A memory, a fantasy, a fear, and something in you recognizes, I am aware of this. That's the change. That's the whole thing right there. Meditation doesn't stop thoughts. It reveals that thoughts are happening inside awareness, and awareness is not the same thing as thought. You are not the movie. You are the screen it's playing on. This is the part I want you to really sit with. You've had a hard day. The mind has been running all day on full power. It's been telling you that life is terrible, that everything is falling apart, that you need to solve yourself immediately, that there's something fundamentally wrong that needs fixing now. And you sit down to meditate. Thoughts keep coming. The mind doesn't suddenly go quiet. The restlessness doesn't vanish. You keep getting pulled away, keep losing the breath, keep surfacing inside some story you didn't choose to enter. But you keep coming back. And then after a while, something becomes obvious. In this exact moment, you're just here. Breathing is happening, sounds are happening, sensations are happening, the room is here. And the catastrophe isn't happening. The argument you were rehearsing isn't happening. The feared future isn't in the room. The entire mental film, all of it, is not actually occurring anywhere outside the mind. And in that recognition, something releases. Meditation doesn't always change your life situation, but it can reveal that your life situation wasn't the thing torturing you in that moment. The torture was coming from the mind's simulation of your life, from the movie, not the world. The present moment was never the enemy. The present moment speaks a different language to the mind. The mind says, I can't handle this. The present moment says, can you handle this one breath? The mind says, what if everything falls apart? The present moment says, is something falling apart right now, in this room, in this moment? The mind says, you need to solve your entire existence before you can rest. The present moment says, just sit here. I'm not saying problems don't exist, they do. Loss is real, pain is real, difficulty is real, bills and illness and grief, all of it real. But there's a difference between dealing with life and being consumed by the mind's endless rehearsal of life. There's a difference between the actual pain and the suffering we generate by living inside an imaginary extension of that pain. Meditation helps you see the difference. It doesn't remove your life, it removes the 10 imaginary lives your mind was simultaneously running alongside it. And this is where I want to talk about the magic itself, because the magic of meditation isn't fireworks, It's not levitation. It isn't glowing eyes or cosmic visions or becoming some unreachable saint who has transcended the need for comfort or pleasure. The magic is much more subtle than that. You sit down believing every story the mind is telling you. You stand up having seen the storyteller. You sit down lost in an imaginary future. You stand up returned to the only place life ever actually happens, here, now, this moment. You sit down as a person trapped inside a thought. You stand up remembering that you are the awareness in which the thought appears. That's magic. Meditation is magical because it reveals the thing we spend most of our lives missing. We are aware. Before the thought, awareness is here. During the thought, awareness is here. After the thought, awareness is here. The thoughts change, the moods change, the stories change, the whole content of the mind changes constantly. But the witnessing presence, the simple fact that experience is being known, remains. And that, when you really touch it, is where the wonder begins. Once meditation quietens the surface noise, something else starts to show up. Not just how do I feel better, but something much deeper. What is this awareness? What is it that notices thought? What is it that hears sound? What am I before I start describing myself? This is where meditation stops being a wellness tool and becomes an existential practice, a genuine philosophical investigation. You don't have to believe anything to do this. You don't need a religion, you don't need a teacher, you don't need access to anyone's doctrine or join anyone's tradition. You can simply sit, breathe, and notice that experience is happening. And then the mystery is right there, not in a book, not in someone else's account, right here, in the fact that there is awareness of anything at all. This is the same doorstep that psychedelics point to, that near-death experiences describe, that deep dreaming sometimes brushes against, that the mystics from every tradition try desperately to put into words. Meditation brings you there quietly. No drama, no substances, and no spectacle. Just awareness, quietly, patiently, persistently recognizing itself. I'll be honest with you, there are stretches where I forget why this matters. Life gets heavy, habits drift, the pull of screens and distractions and the general noise of being alive, it buries the practice. And then I sit down again, and something returns. Not a new idea, but a remembrance. That peace isn't always somewhere far away, waiting for conditions to improve. Sometimes it's just underneath the noise, already there, already present, quietly waiting to be uncovered. And the practice is the uncovering. Meditation is like digging for gold. You don't find it by staring at the surface and deciding there's nothing there. You don't find it by doing it once and giving up because it seemed unremarkable. You dig, you return, you keep going even when it seems boring. Even when the mind is loud, even when you don't want to. Because eventually, even if only for a moment, something shines, and that moment is worth all the effort. Here's the thing I keep coming back to. Yes, meditation helps with stress. Yes, it interrupts the thought loops. Yes, it teaches you that you are not every thought that arrives in your head. But underneath all of that practical value is something far more beautiful. When the mind becomes quiet, even briefly, The ordinary world becomes mysterious again. Breathing becomes mysterious. Sound becomes mysterious. The sensation of existing in a body, in a moment, in a life, becomes genuinely, strangely, deeply mysterious. The fact that anything exists at all becomes mysterious. Meditation doesn't answer that mystery. It doesn't hand you a conclusion. It returns you to the question. It strips away the mental furniture until you're left with the raw fact of being. And in that raw fact, there's something else that feels like home. There's something beneath the fear and the noise and the simulations. Something simple and inexplicable and absolutely miraculous. Awareness, presence, life looking through your eyes, breathing through your lungs, sitting in whatever room you're in right now. The mystery experiencing itself. So the next time your mind is running its simulations, the next time you're lost inside imaginary futures, or replaying conversations that are already over, or suffering inside a world that isn't actually happening in front of you, try coming back. Not an idea or a belief system or a spiritual identity, just to this breath, this moment, this simple, quiet, inexplicable fact of being here. Because sometimes the most magical thing a human being can do is not to escape reality, it's to finally return to it. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, keep dreaming.